Alright, let's work on set 4. We're going to read a chart, and the question says, suppose there are 125,000 people in the town, so they give us the total people. With that additional information, which of the following cannot be solved? So the percent of the total populations of adults 50 and older. Well, other ages is 50 and older, so, and they have an other ages category right here. But the problem with that one is that other ages also means anybody less than 13-year-old here, right? So when you say other ages, we don't know how many are older than 50 and how many are less than 13. So for sure this one's going to be a problem. It says, can we determine the number of people between 20 and 50? Yes, 20 and 50 they have covered. The difference between 31 and 40 and 41 and 50, yes, we could be able to solve that one. The percent total that are teenagers, yes, because we can just do teenagers. And number of 20 to 30-year-olds, yes. So basically all the categories are covered except for that first one, and it's tricky because they say other ages, but they don't specify which ones are older, how many are older than 50 versus how many are younger than 13. So that's the only one that we can't solve. Okay. This next set, well, there's a couple of different ways you can do this one, but usually on these, the plug and play is probably the easiest. So plug in the value x and y. So if we use the order pair 0, -6, and we plug that into the first one, when you plug in y is -6 is equal to, I'm doing this first one right here, 3 times x minus 6. So x, this is your x, this is your y, x is 0. Then that's just going to be -6 is equal to -6, which is true. So I'm going to, this one worked. I'm going to plug in 0 and -6. So plug in 0 for x and -6 for y. And that's just going to give me -6 equals 6. So right here, that's going to be -6 equals 6, and that's not true. So this one doesn't work. So you can kind of see over here what I'm plugging it into. This one doesn't have an x. So it's just uh, -6 equals, so y is -6 equals -6. So this one may work. So we're probably going to have to check two of those. We plug in this one. When x is 0, y is -6. So when this is 0, you're going to get 4 times 0, which is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. And when y is -6, and that's not true. And then for this last one, like y equal -6, let x equal 0, and that's just going to be -6 is equal to 0 minus 1. -6 equals -1. That's not true either. So going back, that's just plugging in. What we did is we picked one particular point. We worked with this first point. Move this out the way. When x is 0, plug in -6 for y and see if you get a true or false statement. And we got two true statements for the first one. So what we need to do is take the another pair and check this one and this one to see if we both get true statements again. So this time we're going to use, so we'll have y equals 3x minus 6, and we're going to plug in 2 for x and 0 for y. 2 for x, oops, 2 for x, and we'll get 0 is equal to 6 minus 6 over here, so 0 is equal to 0, so that's true again, so it worked again. Okay, well, let's do the same thing for the next one we got right. So you get y equals -6, and we want to plug in 2 for x, which there's no x, and plug in 0 for y. 0 is equal to -6. That did not work. So it didn't work for all of the ordered pairs, so we already eliminated to know that this is going to be the one. So it only took us to go through 2 of the ordered pairs to figure out the one that worked. So this one is kind of a plug and play. Plug in an X and Y, see if you get a true statement. All right, inequality here. So we have 3 minus 6x less than 12y, and it says solve for x. So we want to get x by itself. So first thing we want to do is subtract 3 from both sides. And you have negative 6x less than 12y minus 3. Now, if we're trying to get x by itself, divide both sides by negative 6. That means divide everything in the problem by negative 6. Now, do not forget your rules for inequalities. Anytime you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. That's a rule for inequalities. So then you're going to get x is greater than 12 divided by negative 6 is negative 2y. Negative divided by negative is a positive, and 3/6 simplifies to 1/2, but I can look over here and see that they use the decimal form of 1/2, so I'm going to say 0.5. So we're looking for x is greater than negative 2y plus 0.5. Okay, that's the rule for inequality. If you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality, you have to flip the sign. So don't forget that rule. Alright, so this next one, a student makes a building model 21 inches wide. In the model, 1/3 inch represents the actual length of 3 feet. Let me just kind of jot that down. What is the width in inches of the building represented by the model? So first of all, here's a proportion problem. So we're going to have 1/3 inch represents 3 actual feet. So we're going to have inches over feet is equal to inches over feet. So set up the proportion. You always got to keep it consistent. So inches over feet equals inches over feet. Now go back and see what's given. It says the model is 21 inches. Well, the 21 goes with the inches. And it'll say what is the actual width of the building. So we're looking for this. And from this point, we're just going to cross multiply. So 1/3 x is equal to 3 times 21, which 3 times 21 is just going to be 63. Okay, solve for x. So if they multiply by 1/3, you multiply by the reciprocal of that, which is 3. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other, so that these cancel and you're left with x. And then 63 times 3 is just going to be 189. Um, oh, we'll come put it up here. 189. So on all proportions, the most important thing is consistency. If you do inch over feet, then your relationship must always be set up inch over feet. Plug in the known and let x be the unknown, and then you cross multiply and solve on proportions. All right. Brett works 35 hours per week and earned $12.50 an hour. His employer gave him a raise that increases his gross pay to $480. What was the increase in his pay? Well, first of all, we need to figure out what he made in the first place, and that's easy. Multiply the hours times the hourly pay. So do 35 times 12.50. This one's probably going to be an easy problem for you. And that's going to be $437.50. So that's what he made the first time. And he said he gave him a raise so that his new cost, his new amount that he gets paid is $480. They said, well, how much of a raise did he get? Well, that's easy. Subtract the two. When you subtract them, you're going to get $42.50. So then you can see that this is how much his raise consists of. So what's that one here? Steve is throwing a six-sided die. If he throws a 4 on the first throw, what's the probability that his next throw will not, careful here, be a 4? First of all, an independent event, the second outcome is not affected by the first. So it doesn't matter what he rolls the first time, right? The first time he rolled a 4, well, there's 6 sides on a die. One of those 6 sides has a 4 in it, so you have a 1 in 6 chance to roll a 4. That's on the first roll. Okay, on the second roll, it doesn't matter about the first roll because it's an independent event and you still have a die that has 6 sides. So it says, what's the probability that he will not be a 4? Well, how many sides on the dice does not have a 4 on it? Yeah, 5 of the other sides don't. So on the second roll, on his second roll, he has a 5 out of 6 chance to not be a 4. All right, 2m plus 3m plus 4 equals 0. The relationship is expressed above. If n increases by 2, that means increases by 2 means plus 2. What happens to the value of m? On these ones, the best thing to do is just pick any value you want for n. Okay, let's just say let n equal 4 so that we can figure out what's going on, and then we'll increase it and figure out what's going on. So in this one you can pick any value. It doesn't have to be 4. You could pick 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I'm just choosing 4. And so I'll have 2m plus 3. This time I'll let n equals 4 plus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to plug in a 4 for n just because I'm saying let's let it look at that. So I'll have 2m plus 3 times 4 is 12. That's 2m plus, add these two together and you get 16. 2m, subtract 16 from both sides, equals negative 16. Then divide both sides by 2. Solve that equation out and you get negative 8. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to increase m by 2. So I'll say let n equal 6. So, and I'm going to actually, let me move it so I have more room. Let n equal 6. Because I increase it by 2. Now I want to see what happens. So I take the original equation again, I go back to the top, 2m plus 3, put a parenthesis for n, plus 4 equals 0. So I'm using this equation. And this time I said let n be 6. So I'm going to have 2m plus 18 plus 4, 2m plus 22 equals 0. Subtract 22 from both sides and you're going to get 2m equals negative 22. Divide both sides by 2 and m is equal to negative 11. So if it goes from negative 8 to negative 11, that means it went down by 3 because it's negative 8 minus 3 is equal to negative 11. So it decreased by 3. So m decreased by 3. Now, on these particular problems, it's easier just to pick a value for n, solve it, look at what's happening to m, and then do the operation to it. So increase it by 2 and then look at it. And the idea is that you want to compare what happens to m each time to be able to make your choice selection. And in this case, it just so happened to go from here to there, so it was decreased by 3. And negatives can be a little bit confusing, but all right. Julie can grade 20 tests per hour. She started grading at 9. Which of the following best estimate for when she finishes grading 134 tests. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Right from the start, I could just say, well, she has 134 tests, but she can grade 20 an hour. That's approximately 6.7 hours. So if I count from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, it's going to be in between there, between the 3 to 4. So I know it's going to be here, but if you need to like jot that down on paper, so 9 to 10, she has 20 papers. You can do it this way too. From 10 to 11, in that hour, she graded 20 more papers, so she's up to 40. And then if you did from 11 to 12, she graded 20 more. From 12 to 1, she graded 20 more. From 1 to 2, 20 more. 2 to 3, she graded 20 more. And you can see from 3 to 4, she's up to 140, and so we're looking for that 134 mark, so it's going to be in between there. A couple different ways to do that, whatever you're more comfortable with. How many times greater than 1/4 is 1/2? How many times greater is 1/4 than 1/2? So if I say 1/4 times what is equal to 1/2? How many times greater is it? Okay, so we're trying to figure that out. To get n by itself, multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/4 is 4. Wherever you do to one side, do to the other. So n is equal to 4 divided by 2 over there, because that's like 4 over 1. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. So it's going to be twice. Or you can just know that from a fourth. A fourth and a fourth is a half. 2/4 is equal to a half. Okay. Helen, Anna, and Emily went to a baseball game. They agree to combine their money. Helen has 11, Anna 15, Emily 16. Admission is $21 per person. How much more money do they need on average for everyone to be able to go to the game together? First, let's add up how much they had. So they say Helen had 11, Anna had 15, and Emily has 16. So when you add them up, they have $42 total. Next thing we need to know is how much does it cost for them all three to get in. Admission costs 21 per person. 21 per person, and there's 3 of them. So it's going to cost them $63 to get in. It costs them 63, but they only have 42. Subtract them to know how much is left. So I would say 63 minus 42 is 21. They owe 21 more dollars, but they want to know how much does each person have to pay. Well, if they owe 21 and there's 3 people, on average they all have to pay $7 more each.